Welcome everybody. This is the 9th of September, the consultant training. As you're coming on board, first of all, welcome to this training. This is for consultants. So if you are a consultant, you are definitely in the right place. If you're not quite yet a consultant, then look on powercalendar.com for the onboarding, and then we'll get there, because this is going to dive deep into the consultant side of the process with Power. My name is Rachel McDonald. Actually, no, it's not. My name is Andy Smith, but I'm stepping in for my friend and colleague, Rachel McDonald, this week. So I have big shoes to fill, so I hope I do a good job on that too. If you want to, you can type into the chat box, type any questions and so on into the chat box. I'll do my best as we go through this. Hopefully a lot of this stuff will get answered if you have burning questions. But if not, I'll take little pauses throughout and come back into the chat box, so no stress. And at some point, you do have the ability to unmute yourselves, but I would ask that you don't do that until we have like a Q&A part where we can have people jump out. The reason being is I'm recording this so that it'll be a nice clean recording in the Power blog. And then as I've said on different trainings, I would encourage you to use 2 sets of eyes and 2 sets of ears on these trainings, all of them like this, whether it's consultant or mentoring or other trainings. And what I mean by that is, yes, you're hopefully going to take something away from these to learn yourself. But as Bobby said, if you are building a team, then it's important to know what your team will have in the way of training and what you can convey to them. And then obviously the recordings are part of that. So 2 sets of eyes and ears, but we'll keep this recording clean and we'll get right into it because there's quite a lot to cover today. All right, so again, my name is Andy Smith. As Bobby said, I've been part of Power since before it was actually public facing. Back in 2015 is when I became part of the company, building in the field, just like all of you guys. Built a very substantial team over those years and had great success. I've seen every iteration of Power. And what I can tell you guys, sometimes we get a little hung up on, when changes happen or things happen that, there's changes go on. What I can tell you is since that time in August 2015, Power has radically changed all the way through. And on each and every occasion, it's just been kind of mind-blowing what the advance has been. It's never been a regressive change of any kind. It's always with the focus of just getting better and better and better. Some of the changes, obviously, you haven't seen them if you're newer, but what I can assure you is that the position that Power is in right now is mind-blowing compared to where we were just a few short years ago. Now as Power GC in control of the installation processes, it's just been staggering really what we've done in the last 18 months to 2 years alone is nothing short of incredible. And that's reflected in the numbers that Jonathan shared with you. Sales numbers, I believe it was 850 or something like that, contracts in August. 1.3 megawatts on the last day of a promotion puts us in the very, very top solar companies in the world is what you're part of here. And what we have in the way of infrastructure to help you without having, you guys to shoulder all that responsibility of your own solar company is nothing short of brilliant. So the long and the short of that is, as you see changes and as you see growth and as you see things developing, just know that with that, comes some challenges at times, positive ones. I call them happy problems. But, just know that always, since day one, Power has grown in an incredibly positive manner. I started to work as part of the corporate team just a couple of months back. It was a great opportunity for me to come into the sales side, the pre-sales, and help with training and do things like this, which is really what I love to do. So it was a great kind of marriage to be able to do that as well. So I've got both hats. So again, if you have questions, bring them on. I'm a pretty transparent guy, so I will answer whatever I can. On the agenda for today's meeting, we're going to look at wind loading issues for panels in Florida, and we're going to cover some of the problems that have been coming up and how to avoid them. So if you're doing business in Florida, this will be very important to you. If you're not, you probably should be, at least as a division of your solar company. I want to touch on something here that's really important. Just know in this whole process that everybody everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants the same thing. What does that mean? Everybody in this chain, from the people pulling permits to our installation teammates to pre-sales to post-sales to every step of the journey, want the solar on the roof as much as you do. And they want the paychecks that come from that and the revenue that comes from that just as much as you do. If you take nothing else away from this session today, we're going to cover another couple of things, but take away this part here. Just know that everybody wants what you do. Nobody is, for example, getting a permit in hand and hiding behind a sofa going, na, 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 I'm going to play a trick on Melissa and not tell her her permit is ready. I promise you, as soon as permits are issued, they are put back into the system and the project moves forward. You know, if you keep that in mind, it will cut down a lot on your frustration. It will help you set expectations correctly. Just knowing that everybody wants the same thing as quickly as possible from start to finish. We're all on the same team. This is a phrase that we coined in our team, but it's relevant to everybody. The fortune is in the front end. And when we get to a proposal review, that's going to make more sense. But the fortune of this process is in the front end. The frustration is in the follow-up. These go together. The fortune's in the front end, the frustration is in the follow-up. What am I talking about? Well, what I mean by that is the more work you do on the front part of this process to get things correct, like correct names, correct emails, clean utility bills, full utility bills, clean bills uploaded, all the basic things that you can do on the front end of this process will save you massive frustration on the back end. It will save your homeowner from frustration. It will help you, again, set expectations in a great way. And we're going to cover that as we go through. And then we're going to look at a lead and solo walkthrough, because I don't think we've done enough of that to actually walk through the lead submission / proposal process and to see what's going on. It's been a real eye-opener for me being inside pre-sales, so I can see you know, where there's definitely been gaps. My favorite team is the New Orleans Saints in NFL, and the coach Sean Payton said, if a couple of players aren't getting the plays, that's on the players. If half the team's not getting the plays, it's on the coaches. So I shoulder the responsibility as trainer to make sure that I'm doing as good a job as I can to cut out some of the stuff that we're seeing in the process. All right, so the first thing is the wind loadings in Florida. This is really, really important because we're having to do change orders because people are putting incorrect panels on. This wind load graph, that you can see the whole big link here, but I'm going to show you how to find it. This is already on Power Resources, but these gray areas show where wind loading is such that we cannot use Hanwha panels. Okay, so if you've got Hanwha panels on your proposal, on your contract, and they're in these areas, it's going to get kicked back and you're going to have to do a change order, you know, which obviously causes much frustration and delays and everything else. So again, the fortunes on the front end, if you're doing business or planning to in Florida, become familiar with this. And if in doubt, you know, certainly I have a pretty global policy in Florida now of using either LG panels or using the Mission panels. Mission and LGs are fine in any of these areas. Hanwha are not. They don't have the same wind loading, wind rating as LGs and the Mission. So if you want to save yourself a ton of frustration, you can say, because of our pricing that we now get on the LG 345s, which is exceptional and extraordinary, you can actually use this as a great selling point. Look, we have panels that are real upgrades here, and we're able to do them at this incredible price because of how we've leveraged LG. So for example, so if you want to use the LG 345s, you know, it's a great upgrade for somebody, and to have that conversation and turn that into a real positive selling message. But get familiar with this. If you're in these areas with projects and they've got Hanwhas, you can expect that they will be kicked back. All right, so and I'll show you that in a moment. I have to go through this slideshow. There's miscellaneous items from the previous weeks. I'm going to kind of skip through these because these are available to you in Power Resources on the previous recordings. So please familiarize yourself with them. Charles did a great training on the dereg markets and how you're supposed to add the utilities in Texas to open up all the options so that it makes sure that you get all of the options for the dereg companies. So go and get familiar with that. The Fun Friday, we call it Fun-Filled Friday, that we had when Solo changed the links to be something that would be CIA encryption worthy. That problem should now be completely resolved. All the new links that are coming out into the Solo, into your power.com on the proposals now have the correct links in them, so you should all be able to open them. We are still running into one or two where people have an old link, which kind of stopped about there, where they can't open them, and so if they need the new link. So if you're in that position where you can't open a link, just let us know at presales@power.com or text us at the 619 number, and we'll get right back to you with that link. Tips and tricks. This cost me, we train on things and sometimes forget ourselves. If you're making changes, sometimes requesting docs happens too quick for the system to catch up. And so if you've made a change to your proposal before you request docs, toggle the autosave off and then hard save it. So toggle it off and then click hard save and then toggle it back on again so that you know it's fixed. I had a situation where docs went out with incorrect numbers because I hadn't done this, frankly. So I need to learn from our own training. What we've got here. Oh yes, so at the moment, at least in the world, we can only use English characters. So if you've used a Spanish or other keyboard in the past to have your name and email, we need to correct it on the proposal account because simply LoanPal won't see it. They don't recognize the special characters or accents, and it will get kicked back. So it's something to keep in mind. I am going to skim through these things here. Docs requests, we'll cover that when we get there. All right, yeah, I'll cover that when we get to the docs walkthrough. It's all good. Something that's coming up a lot lately for some reason is the maximum price per watt. Some of your projects or contracts have been getting kicked back because finance is saying you're too high on the price per watt. So the price per watt for LoanPal must be $5.50 per watt or less for the PV portion, the solar portion. The maximum PPW for eligible upgrades, which includes roofing, for example, is $7 per watt. But there is a cap of 35% of the overall loan that can come from non-PV max with LoanPal. So please, again, go and search LoanPal in the Power Resources, and it will give you all that current information on what the caps are. But we are getting a lot kicked back because people aren't paying attention to the price per watt caps or the percentage caps. So get familiar with them. I'm going to come back to all of this stuff when we get to the actual walkthroughs. Some of the best practice, and again, this is going to make more sense when you see an actual proposal. Best practice that design team follows, they will max out every plane they can for a max offset. They'll use the default of SolarEdge H. Again, one of the biggest things that we see through the process is people selecting incorrect inverters. Please get familiar with how to select the inverter that's appropriate to your size of system, especially obviously with SolarEdge. It's much easier with Enphase because you just click it. But with SolarEdge, you need to get familiar with the size of the system, but it should default. Some of the defaults for mine projects, and therefore I'm assuming other people came back with the A series, which is about a $2,000 more expensive inverter because it runs a battery. So it's on you, you know, the whole thing with these proposals, and your consultants here, you're all consultants, or at least you should be. It's on you, it's on us to audit this stuff. It's not on anyone else to make sure it's correct for you. It's on you, right? This is your project, your business. The panels will not go on the north planes if the tilt is greater than 30 degrees for the shading. So these are the best practice. When in question, always err on the side of lower tilt. So you can go with 30. Avoid heavily shaded areas, or at least make note, like I just did one, that, you know, because of the tree shading, it wouldn't be possible, but I know for a fact that the client has removed the trees. So you can state in the notes whether trees are removed and whether trees should be a factor or not. And you can refer to the updated best practice section for more design standards. The panel orientation will be, first of all, portrait, and then second, landscape, or mixed if needed to reach the offset that you are requesting. But again, if you have preferences or you have experience in designing systems, people grumble because they could design a better system than they're getting back from solar because they're very experienced at it. Well, cool, then tell them where you want to put the panels. They will put panels wherever you tell them to. But keep in mind, they may tell you that it's outside of best practice, which means on a site survey, they're not going to fly. PACE funding, there's PACE funding training. There's been 2 fantastic sessions with Mike St. Lawrence. There's one tomorrow, and then the final one is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So there'll be a series of 4. Please go and find those trainings. They are in the Power Resources under PACE. There'll be a total of 4 trainings, but this is fantastic work that Mike St. Lawrence has done for us. And you can see it also on powercanada.com. All right. I'm not going to dig into all of this, but on the blog, you can see how to do a change order. There's training on how to find, coordinates and things like that. The house doesn't show on satellite, so it's giving you instructions for how to do a rough design. So doing a rough design, like if the house isn't showing on a satellite, is generally pretty similar to any design. And what I mean by that is our proposals are just that. They're proposals. There is no possible way for us to know that we haven't sat a panel on a vent that was put in later on, or we don't know that we exactly hit the fire setback, or they had a remodel, so we just had to kind of guess where they are. Or sometimes I've sold a project where the panels have been literally on a field in the shape of a house because we were able to kind of get a rough idea of what the house was like, but it wasn't showing on satellite because it was new. Any proposal, set expectations with your homeowners correctly, that the definitive design is the CAD drawing, because then someone's up there with a laser measuring it, and sometimes we'll have to come back and do a change order to make sure that the panels are in the right place, or they're moved around to be more efficient, or we can add some if you haven't got max offset. So don't expect or convey to the homeowner that what they're signing for in the proposals is 100% what they're going to get, because in almost no case will that be on the final part of this process. It will be determined by the CAD drawing. I'm going to come back to that when we go through, and we're not going to do the feedback open forum yet. We'll come back to that. If you do have questions, type them in the chat box and we'll definitely come to them. All right, so in the power training blog, we were talking about the Florida wind, and that was a long link. As always, if you go into the blog, anything that you're looking for, you can search for. And lo and behold, it shall come up. Wind and panels to use in Miami-Dade County, Florida. There's your wind drawing, and you can't use hand wires. You must use either Mission or LG. All right, so that's how you find that. Cool. All right, so we're going to go into the lead setting process, the project setting process, and then into the solo proposals to have a good dig around so I can cover some of the things that I see that come up that I know are causing you guys frustrations. I'm sure they are causing us and post-sales frustrations, and a lot of them are easy fix. We can't fix everything, but we can, sure, give it our best shot. When you're adding a lead, right, so you go into my projects, or you go into your power.com, into my projects, then you now have to click on leads to go there, and you add in the information. You guys are all familiar with this. You have something that comes up looking like this. Couple of things. So thing that was alluded to in that PowerPoint that was up there, if the husband and wife want to be on the project together, that's really cool, and they can be. As co-signers, it's not a problem. But for the purposes of the proposals, we can only have one name. So pick whether it's wife or husband, husband or wife, and just have one name in here. It's essential that that's the case, that it's first name. We can do a hyphenated second name, but just make sure you've only got one name, you know, generally wherever possible, just one first, one last name in this proposal. When you don't do this, we have to go back in and change it, right? And I'm going to come to that whole process in a moment. In the email, please, 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 please take the time, energy, and effort to get a correct email for this project. We see all the time, you know, this is obviously a test that we use for the demonstrations for onboarding, but putting in an email that says there is no email yet at gmail.com or fake email at gmail.com as a placeholder kills you. And the fortune's on the front end, the frustration's on the follow-up, and I will explain that exactly. Because the same for the phone number, put an accurate phone number, an accurate email, one first name and last name that's accurate, okay? What happens if you don't? Like, so why am I saying the fortune's in the front end, the frustration's in the follow-up? So you go and get this proposal done, right? Based on, you know, we've got this whole project in here, you go and get this proposal done. Now you want to sit down and sell this to your customer. It could well be at 8 o'clock at night, it could be over a Zoom late at night, it could be on the weekend. Whenever it is, if you do not have this correct, then the proposal is not correct. The proposal has this fake information on it, which means if you can't ask for loan docs, you can't ask for a contract, and you cannot change that information on the proposal yourself, right? I'm going to show you something that's going to help our job in a minute, but you can't change that on the proposal itself. It has to come through pre-sales. So what does that mean? It means you have to send an email into presales@power.com, or you have to text our 619 number or call it, and then somebody has to stop, go and find the project, because quite often, you know, we're not obviously knowing exactly what project yours is, so you have to tell us what that is. We have to go and research it in 2 different platforms and make changes in 2 different platforms for you then to be able to refresh your proposal with the correct name and email and all that good stuff on it. Now, if that takes 10 minutes, which it likely does by the time we've emailed you back and found it in the first place, or stopped whatever we were doing to do that, let's call it 10 minutes. That means we get to do 6 of those per hour max. Okay, there were 855 contracts done last month. You do the math. So we can spend our time doing this kind of corrective work, or we can spend some time helping you get finance questions done correctly for a contract, or figuring out how solar panels could go on better, doing things that we can help you with, making sure contract packets are getting processed. If we're spending, you know, doing 6 of these an hour and we're working 8-hour days, it doesn't take much imagination to know that we could spend all day just correcting this. But a bigger picture of this is, let's say you're sitting down with your customer at 8 o'clock at night on the weekend. Well, you know, like I said on other trainings, I'm sure Rachel and I might do off-book training or off-book support for 300 an hour or something on Venmo. But outside of that, under normal circumstances, and I am joking, you won't get help. You won't be able to get somebody to do that for you, right? You won't be able to get somebody to do that for you. That means you're sitting down with a customer, you've sold them on the project, now you can't qualify them financially or send them a loan doc or an installation agreement until the following day. You look bad, everybody looks bad, it doesn't help the homeowner. So a 5-minute process to get this right on the front end can save you a project on the back end. What's that worth? On average, about $8,000 a home. All right, so that's the perspective. That's the fortune being in the front end. So the question came in, if it's an ambassador and they enter a placeholder email, if we log into Solar, you don't log into Solar to change it. You guys cannot log into the Solar platform. You can log in as far as requesting documents go, but the answer is no, it does not change it everywhere. And I'll show you where you guys can help us in pre-sales by changing it. But we, or pre-sales communication that was invisible, have to go through the whole rigmarole of changing this stuff, right? It's a pain. It's a relatively simple yet completely avoidable but time-consuming process. Now, sometimes it's going to happen. Obviously, there's typos happen. You know, stuff happens, right? So that's cool, and it's not like we're not going to do that, right? But for you guys, you know, you as the solar professional, you're a consummate, seasoned, Shelley, I love that word now, seasoned solar professional. So therefore, you don't want to look like a fool on the back end or have this process or risk losing a deal because you now have to leave the homeowner's home or cancel a Zoom and try and get, you know, the husband, wife, and the whoever else lined up on another Zoom the next day or 2 days' time for this simple stuff. So if it's an ambassador lead and they enter a placeholder email, you need to tell your ambassador you're earning $1,000 to submit accurate information. All we're asking for you to do to earn $1,000 is to upload a clean, full copy of a utility bill and the correct homeowner's information. If they're not going to give you the email, I know some of you guys are door knockers, and so you door knock and they don't really want to give you an email address. I get it. Then set up a discovery call before you request a proposal. Just say, hey, we've got the proposal. We're going to need to email it to you. What's a good email address? And then make the changes yourself. I'll show you how to do that before you request the proposal. You can do that. If you've made a proposal with fake information, then we have to take care of it on the back end. So that's just as straight up as I can be. Take the time, energy, and effort. If someone's not willing to give you an email at all, well, how the hell are you going to sell them a solar system, right? Or how are you going to possibly sell them a solar system if they're not even going to give you an email, because obviously DocuSign requires it. Take the time to do that. That was a good rant. That was my rant of the day. First of many coming. Are you ready? So once you have the project in play, right, now you have the project with all this functional correct information, you've made sure the house is on the right, or the marker's on the right house. You know how to get coordinates because we train on that, and you can look that up in the Power Resources on coordinates, on how to find the coordinates. For those of you that don't know, let me just do one quick sidebar here. And that was Chico, right? So for those of you that don't know how to find coordinates, I'm going to show you real quick. Rachel McDonald taught me this, and it's been a lifesaver. So here is the home. I just zoom in a little bit, 517 West First Street. If you right click, what's here? There you have the coordinates. I do two things. I copy those coordinates and I take a screenshot of this and I upload it into the system. Okay, I upload it into assets. I do this one. I do a closer in one so you can see the roof. I do a screenshot of that. And then I do a screenshot of the street view. So you have everything that you can need. Make sure it's on the right house. And if you have to move it to get a better view, then you can see the home and do a screenshot of that. Those three things go on every single one of my projects to avoid any form of doubt. Now that you've got the coordinates, if you actually enter them in the site info, then they're there for the design team. And then if you're in assets, if you're then also adding in those pictures, I think I did that one here, right? So there, it's already in here. That was a close-up one I added in there. So again, the more you do on the front end, the more accurate it is on the front end. The fortune is in the front end. The frustration's on the follow-up. If you don't do that, and if it's not correct, and then you have a pain trying to chase around. So we've got all this correctly done now. And then we go on to the site info. Please, guys, I end up in arguments sometimes with people. The rule, 100% rule, is that we need a clean, full utility bill in the system, period. I had an argument with someone about, I put page 1 and page 3 in there. Great, but the utility is saying we have to have a whole bill. So we can sit and discuss it all day about how accurate page 1 and page 3 is. It's not getting your solar panels on the roof. It's not getting your homeowner an interconnection agreement signed and done and move forward. So please, every project, it's a simple thing. Every project, we need a clean, full utility bill, period. Obviously, you guys know that as we do, that we can work and make proposals without it. You know, we've done it, or by putting annual consumption in. And you know, if a customer's brand new to the home, they still have, there's no way are they living in their home without having an account with the utility. So they can print off the page off of that has the meter number, the account number, and their address. That's a bare minimum. And really only if someone's brand new. Otherwise, it's, you know, the full copy of the utility bill. Here's a real world example of what happens when we don't do that. One of the projects that we had was uploaded, and you know, it had enough to get the proposal done, and enough just about to get the contracts done in terms of being able to see it, but it was blurry, really, really blurry. But the contract went through, the site survey got done, installations got done. Now it's time for the interconnection agreement and PTO. Well, the utility kicked back and said, we can't read this utility bill. So that then came back to our installation teammate, partner, installation partners. That then went back to post-sales, to a project coordinator. That then got put in assets and a note tagged to the consultant who hopefully read it. Then the consultant gets it. The consultant then has to go back to the homeowner to request another bill, however long that takes. Then it got re-uploaded in there, tagged to the project coordinator. Project coordinator then sends it to our installation partners, who then send it across back to the utility, and on their time, they then look at it to give the installation agreement. That took, in that particular case, more than 2 weeks. So 2 weeks and a couple of days for that process to happen. Had the consultant put a clean copy of a utility bill in, the homeowner wouldn't have been all antsy and freaked out. The consultant wouldn't be pounding post-sales to find out where the interconnection agreement is, or PTO, because they want to get paid. And so homeowner wouldn't have been frustrated, consultant wouldn't have been frustrated, PCs wouldn't be getting pounded. Everybody would get paid over 2 weeks quicker for the sake of 5 minutes of getting that part right. The fortunes in the front end. Take the time, take the responsibility to make sure that you have that in here. And that was the second round. It's a good one. All right, the annual consumption, obviously we take from the bill, we're putting that in. We're putting that in as a main, if we, is the second best option to having obviously 12 months of usage. But the annual consumption is more likely to be an estimate. It's incredibly important that you put exactly who the utility company is, and it must match whatever you put in here, right? It's really, really important, because if you don't, if you're guessing on the utility, if you leave that blank or make up something or whatever happens, by the time you get your proposal, people are kicking back wondering why the new utility bill is not accurate or whatever it is. There are 7,000, I think, 200 utility companies in the Solo database. That means they probably got yours, but they may not. But in any case, if you put this in here, the design team's putting that in the solar proposals, so your solar proposals are going to reflect accurately what's going on in there. Roof age, you guys all know this, roof age, roof type, main service panel is, I would say at least half of my homeowners, that's a challenge, so you're using your best guess. Again, before they even see before they're seeing the proposal, I'm going to let them know that they can expect that a site survey will be looking at their panel, and it may or may not need an upgrade if they're not sure. If they know for sure it's 200, that's going to be fairly unlikely. If it's 150, or they just don't know, but the house is 20 years old, it's highly likely that they're, at least, certainly the site survey will determine whether or not they need one. So set expectations. That's a huge part of the front end process, is setting expectations correctly. Mounting preference is either roof or ground. Both means on the ground and roof as a combo system. So if you wanted to see which one was better, like if you wanted a whole ground to do 100% offset and a whole roof, make sure when you do both that you put enough kilowatt hours in here, and then you're writing it exactly in the design, in the site info notes, that you want it big enough so that the ground mount could be a standalone. So it's not, they're not just putting enough panels to combine it with what's on the roof. All right. Sorry, Mike. Anything else on this part? I think I hammered on all of that good stuff. Your proposals are coming in. Like I said, they're all going to be accurate now, hopefully, and linking to the right places. While we're here on the messenger, please make sure you're tagging the right person, right? Because if you're, I can tell you this for firsthand, if you tag 2 people in here, you almost certainly won't get a response, because one of the people that you've tagged will assume the other one's dealing with the question. So again, as accurate and as not sparing, I'm not trying to say don't send notes or anything like that, but if you can be really accurate with who you need to send the notes to, it will help you. So if it's at, I'm going to pick on Stormy, she won't mind. Is your PC, it's going to her and assigned to her. And then help, whatever it is, and then send. So you've assigned it and sent. That will come to her and her alone. She will get a note that's in here, and she's good to go, and she'll be the one responding to it. Or it might be at Power Finance. Most of the notes, at least that we deal with on the front end, are going to be at pre-sales communications. That's what used to be invisible. So if you have, the panel's not showing up, I adjusted the coordinates, or I've requested a revision because the trees are gone, whatever it is, it's at pre-sales communication and assign it to them. And then that way, there we are. And that way they're going to get it, and them alone. If you tag multiple people in here, it's almost certain that your note won't get action because people are making assumptions that somebody else is. All right, assets obviously is where you're uploading everything. If you upload an asset in here, let's say you upload a driving license to go with the loan doc. That's a common, like post-sales adders. You add the driving license in here. If you just add the assets, no one's going to be looking for it. So go into Messenger and then tag at Power Finance and make sure you're clicking them. I can't. I'm the world's worst multitasker. And then you're going to say DL uploaded in assets. That way, when Power Finance, Emily or Megan, whoever gets that note, will know to look in here and go, oh yeah, cool, there's a driving license. I can download that and put it in the files. So that's a quick rundown. That also applies to emails. We get emails that, look, again, we all want the same thing, right? Let's go back to that first statement. We all want the same thing. We all want panels on roof as quickly as possible because we all want money to flow as quickly as possible. We want happy homeowners and paychecks because all of our babies need shoes. We all want the same thing. So obviously everybody's installation is really important to them. And obviously completely we understand that. But let's say if you haven't had an immediate response to a question, whatever it is through the messenger, if you email and your email includes everybody in the food chain that could possibly be involved in your project, like pre-sales, post-sales, finance, director of operations, whatever it is, and they happen where we get this just like this scattergun thing to everybody, I promise you that is going to get you a slower response than if you just pick the right person to or the right department to communicate with, because that will be a very focused way of getting your notes attended to. If you send it to everybody, same logic applies. If we get a note that's pre-sales, post-sales, finance, whatever, we're human beings. It's not we're deliberately slowing it down, but we will make an assumption, oh, someone's got that handled, cool, they already texted them or whatever it is. So you will almost certainly at least take longer if you get a response at all. If you just fire hose everybody, it's just not cool. It's unnecessary and non-productive. So again, to avoid you being frustrated on the follow-up of that, take the time to make the fortune in the front end and figure out who it is that you need to speak with and trust them. Again, we all want the same thing. We get loads in pre-sales. I mean, we shouldn't even get them at all, right? But in pre-sales, we get, where's the permit? It's been 3 weeks and we haven't got a permit. Or, when's the NTP? Well, NTPs we work with, but if we're looking to check on a contract packet, or where's the permit's a big one, or when is PTO? These are things that are out of our control. And I know people think that, hey, the permit's there. Sometimes people have even called permit offices to say permit's there, but it doesn't matter because that's not necessarily the only permit belonging to that particular project. So all I'm telling you guys is, again, no one is hiding behind the sofas with your permits in hand, waving them, going, nah. As soon as permits are issued and picked up, they are submitted through the process and the project moves forward. It's that simple. The interconnection agreements are with utilities. We are beholden to them. We don't have magic weapons to go and talk to utilities. And yes, can it take a long time and be frustrating? Of course it can. But like with permits, just know that the process is being actioned every single day by people. Someone is looking at that process every single day. So just know to trust the process. But bigger than that, you know, we get excited, and I'm sure that you'll have teammates who are really excited by the fact that they've got this project going on. But setting expectations, oh yeah, you know, we got this, we'll get the contracts done, we'll get the site survey out, it will be in 2 days' time, and you know, we'll get the permits then, and that would just be about another week, and then boom, you know, then everything happens, and all this quick. If you set expectations badly with your homeowner, or your teammates are doing that, you are just piling up huge frustration and cancellations and bad things. Set expectations correctly. We are going to do our best. We are beholden to government agencies who have different responses, you know, weekly to COVID. They change all the time, as everybody does. Schools, just look at schools. Are they open? Are they shut? Are they open? Are they shut? Well, government offices are in the same boat, right? So we have government offices that we're dealing with. We have utilities that we're dealing with that aren't necessarily thrilled about people going solar to begin with, depending on which utility they are. So set the expectations. You know, it can take, you know, allow 30 days for a permit, right? Allow 30 days for a permit. Allow, you know, after the installation, it's got an inspection and an interconnection and PTO, allow another maybe up to 30 days for that process. Set the expectations right, and then when we deliver sooner, we've got an even happier customer. But if you set expectations badly, or your teammates are doing it, if you're mentoring people doing that, you know, you're just asking for, you know, miserable customers, and that's when, you know, we get pounded. Oh, where's my permit? You know, and the site survey was like 3 days prior, and I'm not joking. So please don't do that stuff. All right. So we're here on a solo proposal. I'm just going to have a quick pause. If you sent it, so Tom's sending me one personally. I can't answer that one. If you sent an email into pre-sales, it will be answered for sure in the order it got received. What are the drop-down options for lead source? I think it was things like word of mouth, friends and family, or online marketing. But you just click on it and see what those lead sources are. It's just a way of tracking, you know, how we're collecting data on where leads are coming from. Disregard my question. Okay. This is sort of, oh, thank you, Shelley. Do we have a reference in our resources for who gets tagged? That's a great question. So do we have a reference in our resources for what department gets tagged and for what? For instance, I wouldn't have known to tag finance for an uploaded ID. Very helpful. Okay. So basically anything that's to do with admin. So in other words, if you have changes to your Power profile, or you know, you want to change, you know, you're having problems logging in, or you need to get back to your LMS training, support@power.com is the place to go for that. An email to support@power.com. Give them a little chance to get back to you, but that's the best place for that. Anything that's up to a signed contract is the pre-sales department. So that could be, you know, pre-sales@power.com, or our numbers. I'll put the contact numbers up again in a bit, but they're everywhere. They're on Power Calendar for us. So 619-320-4770. The best way to get in touch with us is by text, because we're able to, you know, work on text. If we happen to be in, you know, another meeting or something, we can still answer text and things like that. So texting on our contact number. I think the same for post sales too. But anything up to signed contracts, so anything that needs fixing, anything up to where the loan docs and the installation docs are signed, is pre-sales. Anything after that is post-sales, unless it's something to do with the finance side. So sometimes, you know, you did a change order. So a change order would come back through us. We can help with those because that's now pre-sales, right? If it's a change order, it's basically a new contract. So that will come back to us for help to get that put right. But then you'll have to send an email to finance@power.com with the new loan amount, and they can send new loan docs out for you, or tag them through the messenger system at Power Finance and say, we've got a new installation agreement for 21,381.42. Please send out loan docs to match that. And yes, the ID could go to pre-sales communication because they'll handle it. Sometimes finance will ask you specifically for it because it hasn't been uploaded. If you just take this as a 100% fact, right? And again, you know, there's exceptions to every rule, but if you took it as mandatory that you upload a government ID or / driving license for every single project that you ever have a loan signed on. That will keep you in good stead, and it will negate that question even coming up, because you'll have it in there when pre-sales are processing the packages, the invisible are processing the packages. So just assume that when you get a loan signed and done, that you're going to upload an ID, and that make that, you know, par for your course. A utility bill, I can't seem to find the annual consumption on the monthly bill I was sent. If it's a full bill, not all, but most utility bills have a graph that shows you the usage per month, or some kind of bar line that shows you that. And then in the, you know, if you can, like utilities like PG&E have a hotline that you can call and get the numbers. And otherwise you can call the utility with your homeowner. That all they've got to do is just give you permission to talk to them, and then you can get the 12 monthly usage directly from the utility with the homeowner's permission. So again, you know, we can work on that in different trainings, but where there's a will, there's a way to get the consumption, and sometimes we need to have our homeowner help us, because it's in their interest, right? If you present it the right way, listen, I need to get these numbers because I want to be 100% accurate. I don't want to do any guesswork on your project. You're far too important to me. Can we get on the phone with the utility and get that number? How do you order new proposals when they expire? You request a proposal revision, and if you're adamant that you don't want any changes to the design, where you request a proposal revision, I don't think I've got a proposal in that site that I'm showing you, but when you order a proposal revision, then in the reason why, you can just click on it's for new design, but just type in that box. This just needs a fresh link only. The proposal has expired, I need a fresh link. No design changes required at all. And that's how you do that. And that's what we're doing on proposal revision is we're capping them at 3 because there's just far too many going in unnecessarily. So, but the ones where you're just getting a fresh link don't count as that. All right. Tom's answered that question, thank you. So if it's everything uploaded at the time of sale, if you've uploaded everything, I would tag, if you've uploaded everything at the time of sale, tag pre-sales communication and assign it to pre-sales communication in the messenger system. In the messenger system, make sure you're tagging and assigning to pre-sales communication, and then write in what your note is. So I'm running a bit out of time here, but at pre-sales community, but write in, I uploaded the fully signed installation agreement. I uploaded a screen grab of the loan docs are signed. I uploaded a driving license, all in assets, please see assets. Boom, then they'll know they're there. So that's who I would tag. All right, do we typically ask roof age, roof type, main panel, and mounting preference when we ask for a clean copy of the bill? Yes, as much information, fortunes on the front end. So the more information you can get on the front end of this process, absolutely the better. Homeowners typically know their roof age. They typically know what they're made of. They typically don't know, frankly, what their main panel is. A way that I get around that is to say, look, your house is on fire, it's an electrical fire. You want to go and switch your power off, you've got your gray panel, you open the door and there's a big switch at the top that you switch everything off with, right? You know where that is? Yeah, cool. Go and take a close-up picture of that so I can see the number that's written on it and text it to me. And then that way you've got the main panel, almost every case. All right, I'm going to move quickly through. We've got 9 minutes to go. I wanted to show you some of the basics that we're running into on proposals. We get revision requests on a proposal like this one. These are just random samples, but we get a revision request. It'll go in for a revision request. Revision requests just cost everybody money and time, right? I know what it is, 50 bucks a revision, whatever it is. Costs the company money, it means we get paid less, takes time, energy, and effort. And so we're trying to eliminate some of the unnecessary ones. On this one, you know, we might get a revision request that says, hey, you know, why haven't they used all the roof? You know, my goodness me, why haven't they used all the roof? Why have they only put panels here? There's roof everywhere. Well, it's because they haven't clicked on the edit button, which brings up, some of you are going to be shaking your heads, this can't happen, this doesn't happen, but I assure you it does. And they haven't noticed that some of these panels have been switched off by the design team. So the design team has tried to build, you know, something that's 100%. And so the consultant just hasn't realized that there are switched off panels here and they don't need a revision. They just need to click on the edit button and switch on whatever panels they want. That one's more common than you would imagine. One of the first things, in fact, the first thing that I do when I'm going through a proposal, and again, keep in mind, you are solar consultants, professional solar consultants. By professional, that means you get paid. We get paid a hell of a lot of money for being solar consultants. It comes with responsibility. It's your responsibility, period, that these usage numbers are correct. It's not the design team. It's not the fact that you went to the trouble of uploading something and they just didn't read it, whatever. It's up to you. So the first thing I do on every single project I have, this one I can tell is a DWP in LA because they bill every 2 months. But the first thing I do is click on any one of these blue lines and it opens up a box. And on the box, if I went by annual usage, I can make sure that that's correct. Otherwise, I can look at the bill and look at the numbers I got and plug in the monthly numbers every single month throughout the process. And then when I'm happy they're correct, I update. Now I know my basis point is correct on this graph. That's when I can start messing around with panels and which panels I'm going to use and all of that stuff. I don't even begin that process until I've looked at this and made sure the usage numbers are correct. And then related to that is we get a lot kickback or to us like, wow, their bill's actually 210. Why is it only showing 183 or whatever it is? And people don't realize that you can set this. So if you've done the math, which I do on every one, I take the total amount of the bill divided by the total kilowatt hours for that month, or in this case, 2 months, and I figure out what the kilowatt hours are. Anybody that's not in California is going to be going, what? That can't be right, but it is. But you can set this yourself. So you can click either on the monthly amount or on the kilowatt hours, and it opens up another box. And if you think it's not 24.9, it's 0.22, 22 cents, then change it. Or if you think it's 183 per month is your average that you come up with, change it. Okay, that's up to you to do that stuff on those changes. A tip that you should do for every project is click on the price and bring up your price per watt. This is how you know whether or not you're going over. In this case, this is a little over, right, on the PV side, unless I put something else in here I'm not sure of. But you can add up the base price per watt, the module adders, the inverter, that's all solar, electrical engineering, structural engineering. That is PV, that's going in the 550 cap. Pretty much everything here is in the 550 cap. So we would need to take a look at our margins here because we need to be under 550 if we're using a finance, if this is LoanPal. But always take a screenshot of this, please. Like when you're ready to send this to your client, take a screenshot of this. All right, so 2 things, and Melissa talked about this earlier. Always export that to PDF. It's the slowest thing ever, but export to PDF so you have a hard copy and you take a picture of this pricing so that you know if you have to make changes or come back or there's an argument or whatever it is, you've got a copy of this in your files ready to go. The last thing I'm going to, oops, see how long that took to save as PDF? I don't know why that does. Anyway. It's still got the stimulus rebate on it, that's why it's over. This is an old one, and before anyone asks, no, I cannot sell this. Okay, the stimulus rebate is over. I'm going to show you one here on an unnecessary proposal request. This is one that came in, and there's 4 versions of this. So there were 3 revisions to this project, and the consultant's doing the best, great job trying to figure out how to maximize panels. But the reality is, from this was the second of 4. So the second one, how many panels can you realistically put on there, right? Because the design team is going by fire setbacks, and I think some of these are probably out of compliance as it is. So even if you could revise a panel, just have a think about it, right? Just have a think. Where could I put panels, and literally how many more panels could I even get on here if I'm not at 100% offset, which is the problem in this case, right? The answer on this one is, I don't know, if you could get 3 more panels on here somewhere by the time you've got rid of the non-compliant ones, you'd be pretty lucky, right? So is that really going to make a difference? Is that worth having a revision done? no is the answer. And revisions like this will start to get kicked back. And just to give you guys a heads up that we're going to start kicking back revisions like this, not because we're just being awkward, but because there's literally no point. So this is a perfect example of one that I would sell as what I would call a rough design. Look, we've got a 62 panel system here. It's producing 22.8 a year. It's a 20K system. If you like this, let's move forward. Let's get an agreement done. Let's move forward, but just know that you're going to have a site survey, and that site survey is going to produce a CAD drawing with an accurate, really, truly firm design. From there, they may say that we can actually get 65 panels on, so we can go back and then do a change order for you. Or they may say, look, these are out of compliance, which these for sure are. So we can only get 59 on there. So we're going to have to make a smaller system. So you don't have to agree to the change order down the road, but to be 100% accurate, keep in mind, this is a proposal. You're agreeing to this proposal. The final CAD design is your accurate depiction of what is actually going to go on their roof. All right, I was going to quickly do contracts if I can, and then I'll run out of time. We'll come back and we'll do another training on contract requests. Basically, the bottom line when you're doing docs requests, there is a training on this on a previous one of these trainings. You know, again, make sure that you're, if it's the co-applicant that's on the bill, put the co-applicant. It's still, whoever is on the bill needs to be in here. If it's the utility account holder, you put their name. If it's the homeowner, it will populate. If it's the co-applicant, you need to put the co-applicant in there. When you're putting in, again, a lot of the frustration that people have, why hasn't mine gone to NTP? Why haven't I got my contracts processed? Well, largely because if you have a co-signer, how it works is when you request docs, it goes to the person on the proposal first. That may be you, it may be your mentor, it may be you if you are one. It comes to you in an email for approval. It then goes to signer number one. And then from signer number one, when I'm approving one, I can't even see the customer name. It populates after I say yes. So it won't have the co-signer's name on it. So if it goes to the first signer, they get this thing, they've signed it, docs all done, complete. And then the co-signer doesn't even check their email to see if they have to sign it. Okay, and that's why it gets bounced back 9 times out of 10, because the second person has not signed that. On the same for the loan docs. So make sure you've got the expectations right. Make sure you're using different emails for the primary and the secondary signer, because it will need to go to different emails. If it comes to the same one, they're definitely getting kickback. All right, thank you guys. At what point in the process are the Hanwhas getting kicked back? They will now be getting kicked back. It's a good question. I mean, kicking back now, how about that? So at what point of the process are the Hanwhas in Florida getting kicked back? Like now, because we know that we can't use them. If they're on your contract, it's going through the audit after the site survey. The site survey will say, hey man, we can't use these Hanwhas. They're not compliant, so then you have to do a change order at that point. All right, I am stopping the